Here's a fun fact that nobody tells you in high school. The education system might be preparing you for poverty, not prosperity. And no, this isn't some conspiracy theory from someone who dropped out and got lucky with Bitcoin. This is about the fundamental way schools operate and what they actually teach you about money, success, and life. Think about it. You spend 12 to 16 years in an institution that teaches you calculus, the periodic table, and what mitochondria do, which, spoiler alert, is that it's the powerhouse of the cell, but somehow never gets around to teaching you about taxes, investing, or how credit cards actually work. Weird priorities, right? The system was designed during the Industrial Revolution to create obedient factory workers, people who show up on time, follow instructions, don't ask too many questions, and trade their time for money. And guess what? It's still doing exactly that, except now the factories are called offices and the assembly lines are called desks. But here's the kicker. The rules of wealth have completely changed, and school is still teaching the old playbook. While the system tells you to get good grades, go to college, get a stable job, and work for 40 years, the people actually getting wealthy are doing something completely different. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how school makes you poorer. Not because teachers are evil or education is worthless, but because the system fundamentally misunderstands how wealth is built in the modern world. We're talking about the hidden curriculum of poverty, the debt trap disguised as opportunity, and the mindset that keeps people broke even when they're making six figures. Fair warning, this might make you angry. It might make you question some life choices. It definitely made me rethink everything I was taught. But understanding the problem is the first step to escaping it. So let's dive into how the education system is systematically preparing you for a life of financial mediocrity, and more importantly, what you can do about it. Chapter 1. The Obedience Training. How School Kills Entrepreneurship. Let's start with the most fundamental way school makes you poorer. It trains you to be an employee, not an owner. And employees, statistically, don't get wealthy. They get by. There's a massive difference. The permission-based life. From day one of kindergarten, you learn a simple lesson. You need permission for everything. Permission to speak, permission to go to the bathroom, permission to eat, permission to learn what you're interested in, permission to leave. This isn't education, this is obedience training, and it's incredibly effective. By the time you graduate, you've spent thousands of hours learning that you need someone else's approval to do basically anything. Want to start a project? Ask the teacher. Want to learn something off curriculum? Too bad, it's not on the test. Want to challenge the system? That's detention, buddy. Now, fast forward to adulthood. You've been conditioned to seek permission for everything. Want to start a business? You feel like you need approval. Want to pursue an unconventional path? You need someone to validate it. Want to break the rules? The thought makes you uncomfortable because you've been trained for 16 years that rule breaking equals punishment. Meanwhile, every wealthy person you've heard of broke rules. They didn't ask permission. They didn't wait for approval. They saw an opportunity and took it, often against conventional wisdom. Steve Jobs dropped out. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out. Bill Gates dropped out. Now, I'm not saying dropping out makes you successful. Survivorship bias is real. But I am saying that the wealthiest people didn't wait for permission. They gave themselves permission. The single path fallacy school teaches you there's one path. Get good grades, go to college, get a job, climb the ladder. One path, one right answer, one way to succeed. This is perfect for creating factory workers. Terrible for creating wealth. Wealth creation requires multiple attempts, different strategies, pivoting when things don't work, trying unconventional approaches. It requires embracing failure as data, not as a permanent verdict on your worth. But school punishes failure. Get an answer wrong? That's a bad grade. Fail a test? You're labeled as struggling or lazy. Try something different from the curriculum? You're being difficult. The entire system is designed to find the one correct answer and punish deviation. Real life, especially wealth creation, doesn't work that way. There are infinite paths to wealth. The people who get rich are usually the ones who found a path nobody else saw. The comfort with authority. Here's something dark. School teaches you to be comfortable with someone else controlling your time, your activities, and your potential earnings. It normalizes hierarchy where you're at the bottom. You show up when you're told. You do what you're told. You produce what you're told to produce. Someone else grades your performance. Someone else determines your worth and your future. Sound familiar? That's literally a job. And for most people, that's fine. They're comfortable with it because they trained for it for 16 years. The idea of being responsible for their own income, schedule, and results is terrifying because they never practiced it. Entrepreneurs are uncomfortable with authority. They want control. They want to determine their own schedule, income, and path. School systematically trains this instinct out of you, the hourly mindset. School teaches you that time equals value. You spend X hours in class, you get credit. You do homework for Y hours, you get a grade. The equation is simple. Time in equals results out. This is wage thinking. This is poverty thinking. Wealthy people understand leverage. They understand that 1 hour of work can generate $10 or $10,000 depending on what you're doing and how you've set up systems. They're not trading time for money. They're creating assets that generate value repeatedly. But school never teaches this. Every assignment is time-based. Every test is time-limited. Every grade reflects the time you put in. You're literally being trained to think in terms of hours and grades rather than value creation and scalability. The risk aversion programming. Take a test, play it safe, choose the answers you know are correct. Don't experiment during the exam. Don't try creative solutions. Color inside the lines. Follow the rubric exactly. This creates adults who are terrified of risk. And you know what requires risk? Building wealth. Starting a business is risky, investing is risky, changing careers is risky, negotiating for higher pay is risky. Every significant financial leap requires risk tolerance. But you've been trained that risk equals failure and failure is catastrophic. In school, one failed test can ruin your GPA. One bad semester can derail your college applications. The stakes feel enormous and the lesson is clear. Avoid risk at all costs. So you graduate and get a safe job. You stay in that job even when you're underpaid because leaving is risky. You never start that business because it might fail. You keep your money in a savings account earning 0.5% because investing feels risky. Congratulations, you've been successfully programmed for financial mediocrity. The collaboration problem. Work with someone on a test? That's cheating. Copy someone's homework? Academic dishonesty? Share answers? You both get zeros. The message is clear. Success is individual. Collaboration is cheating. You're on your own. Then you enter the real world, and wealth is almost entirely about collaboration. Partnerships, networks, teams, joint ventures. Nobody builds significant wealth alone. The wealthiest people have massive networks. They collaborate constantly. They leverage other people's skills, knowledge, capital, and audiences. That's how you scale beyond individual effort. But you've been trained that this is wrong, that you should do everything yourself, that asking for help is weakness, that collaboration is somehow dishonest. This programming keeps you isolated, struggling alone, when you could be building with others. Chapter 2, The Debt Trap. College as a financial anchor. Let's talk about the single biggest wealth destruction machine in modern America, student loans. School doesn't just fail to teach you about money, it actively puts you in debt before your career even starts. It's brilliant, really, in a dystopian kind of way. The college myth. You've been told since elementary school, go to college or you'll be a failure. College equals success. No college equals poverty. It's practically a religious doctrine at this point. Here's what they don't tell you. College is a financial investment, and like any investment, it can be good or catastrophically bad depending on the numbers. Going $200,000 in debt for an engineering degree that leads to an $80,000 starting salary, that math can work. Going $100,000 in debt for a liberal arts degree that leads to a $35,000 job, that's financial suicide with a diploma. But high school doesn't teach ROI analysis. They don't teach you to calculate debt-to-income ratios or compare the net present value of different educational paths. They just say, go to college, like it's a magical spell that guarantees prosperity. It's not. For many people, college is the single worst financial decision they'll ever make. The compound interest you don't learn about. Here's the irony. School teaches you about compound interest in math class as an abstract concept. What they don't teach you is how it works against you with student loans. Let's say you borrow $50,000 for college at 6% interest. If you make minimum payments over 10 years, you'll pay about $66,600 total. That extra $16,600 is money you could have invested, used for a down payment on a house, or started a business with. But wait, it gets worse. Because you're making loan payments, you can't invest that money in your 20s and 30s, the most important compound growth years of your life. If instead of paying $555 per month in student loans for 10 years, you invested that money at an 8% return, you'd have about $102,000. The opportunity cost of that student loan isn't just the interest you paid, it's the wealth you didn't build because your money was locked up in debt, and nobody explains this to you when you're 17 and signing loan documents. The credential inflation scam decades ago, a high school diploma got you a good middle-class job. Then everyone got high school diplomas, so employers required bachelor's degrees. Now everyone has bachelor's degrees, so they want master's degrees. Soon they'll probably require PhDs to manage a Starbucks. This is credential inflation, and it's making education more expensive while simultaneously making it less valuable. You need more education to qualify for the same jobs your parents got with less education. The education industry loves this. More required credentials equals more tuition revenue. It's like a subscription service that keeps increasing prices while delivering less value. Meanwhile, the skills required for most jobs haven't changed that dramatically. Most people don't use their degree-specific knowledge in their careers. They're just checking a box that costs tens of thousands of dollars. The delayed start tax. Let's talk about something nobody mentions. The opportunity cost of spending 4 years in college. You're 18. Option A, go to college for 4 years, graduate with $40,000 in debt at 22. Option B, start working, learning real skills, building experience, earning money, and investing. By the time college you graduates and starts their career at 22, Working You has 4 years of experience, career, progression, earnings, and investment growth. College You is starting from $40,000 in the hole. Working You might have $40,000 saved. That's an $80,000 difference before College You even starts working, and that gap compounds over decades. Now, for certain careers, doctor, lawyer, engineer, college is necessary. But for many paths, especially in the modern economy, it's an expensive delay that hurts more than it helps. The lifestyle inflation trap. Here's the dirty secret about student loans. They train you to be comfortable with debt, and once you're comfortable with debt, financial institutions own you. You spend 4 years living above your means, funded by loans. You get used to a certain lifestyle. Then you graduate, get a job, and instead of living like the broke student you were, you maintain the lifestyle because you're finally earning money. Except you're not earning money. You're in debt. But debt feels normal now, so you buy a car on loan, get an apartment you can barely afford, finance furniture, get credit cards. The student loans trained you to accept debt as a normal part of life. And that mindset keeps you poor forever. Wealthy people use debt strategically to buy assets. Poor people use debt to buy lifestyles. And school teaches you to be comfortable with the latter. The degree they don't market universities spend millions on marketing. Beautiful campuses, happy students, career success stories. What they don't show you, the graduate working retail with $80,000 in debt, the person with a master's degree making $40,000 per year, the default rates, the people who dropped out and have debt but no degree. These outcomes are common, but they're not on the brochure. You get sold a dream and delivered a debt sentence, and because you made the decision at 17 or 18, when your brain isn't even fully developed, you're locked into it. Bankruptcy won't clear student loans. They follow you forever. It's the only loan in America that's nearly impossible to escape. Even drug dealers can declare bankruptcy. Student loan borrowers cannot. Think about that. Chapter 3. The Earning Ceiling. Why Employees Stay Poor. School prepares you for one thing, being an employee. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Employees have a hard ceiling on their wealth potential. Not because they're lazy or incompetent, but because the system is designed that way. Let's break down why the employee path is a poverty trap disguised as stability, the linear income prison. As an employee, your income is linear. You work 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. You work 40 hours, you get paid for 40 hours. Want to double your income? Work double the hours? Except you can't because there are only 24 hours in a day and you need to sleep sometimes. This is the fundamental problem with employment. Your income is capped by time. Meanwhile, business owners and investors have exponential income potential. a business can grow 10 times, while the owner's time investment stays the same. An investment can compound indefinitely without additional time input, but school never teaches you this. They teach you to value stability, which is code for limited upside. They celebrate the person who gets a steady job, not the person who takes a risk to build something scalable. The salary negotiation gap. Here's something wild. Most people never negotiate their salary. They accept the first offer, and even those who do negotiate typically get 5 to 15% more at most. Why? Because school never taught you that your labor is a commodity with market value. They taught you to accept grades as given, to accept rules as fixed, to accept authority's assessment of your worth. So you walk into a salary negotiation, if you have the courage to negotiate at all, already feeling like you should be grateful they're offering you anything. You're not thinking, I'm providing value and should be compensated accordingly. You're thinking, please let me have this job. This employee mindset costs you millions over a lifetime. Starting salary matters because every future raise is a percentage of it. Accept $50,000 when you should have gotten $60,000. That $10,000 gap compounds through your entire career. But you were never trained to think of yourself as valuable. You were trained to be grateful for the opportunity to trade time for money. The Raise Myth School teaches you that hard work gets rewarded. Do well on tests, get good grades, put in effort, get recognition. The system is meritocratic and fair. Then you get a job and discover raises are 2 to 3% annually if you're lucky. You could be the best employee in the company, and you'll still get basically the same raise as someone coasting. Want a real raise? You have to leave. Job hoppers make 50% more over their careers than people who stay loyal to one company. Loyalty is punished, not rewarded, but school taught you to value loyalty, stability, and following the path. So you stay at the same company for 10 years, getting your 2% annual raises, wondering why you're not getting ahead. Meanwhile, your income is growing slower than inflation. You're effectively getting pay cuts while working harder. The system trains you to be loyal employees, and companies exploit that training to keep labor costs down. The tax disadvantaged employees pay the highest taxes of any income group. Your income is taxed before you see it. Your remaining money gets taxed when you spend it. You can't deduct much. You're basically a tax farm for the government. Business owners? They get taxed on profits after expenses. They deduct equipment, travel, home office, vehicle costs, meals, education, basically everything. Their effective tax rate can be 15 to 20% lower than an employee making the same gross income. Investors? Long-term capital gains are taxed at preferential rates, way below ordinary income tax rates. The tax code is written to incentivize business ownership and investment. It punishes employment, but school never teaches you this. They don't explain tax strategy. They don't show you how the system favors owners over workers. So you graduate, get a job, and hand over 25 to 35% of your income to taxes with no idea there's a better way. The benefits trap, but employees get benefits. Sure, health insurance, retirement matching, paid time off, these are valuable, right? Here's the thing, those benefits are part of your compensation package. The company isn't giving you free stuff out of generosity. They're paying you less salary and providing benefits instead because it's cheaper for them. That health insurance that costs your employer $500 per month, they'd rather pay that than give you an extra $1,000 per month in salary, even though the insurance is worth less to you than cash. And those benefits become golden handcuffs. You're afraid to leave because you might lose insurance. You can't start a business because you need the 401k match. You're trapped by benefits that are worth less than the income ceiling costs you. The ceiling is real. Let's talk numbers. In most corporate careers, you'll top out somewhere between $100,000 to $300,000 unless you make it to the executive suite, where your compensation structure starts looking more like ownership anyway. That sounds like good money, and it is, but it's still a ceiling. Meanwhile, business owners and investors have no ceiling. They can make $1 million, $10 million, $100 million. There's no cap. The upside is unlimited, but school teaches you to aim for a good job, not unlimited upside. They teach you to value security over potential. They prepare you to accept the ceiling. And here's the darkest part. By the time you realize there's a ceiling, You're often too deep in the employee lifestyle to easily escape. You've got the mortgage, the car payments, the lifestyle expenses calibrated to your employee income. Starting over feels impossible. The trap has closed. Chapter 4. The Time-Money Confusion. How School Teaches Backwards Wealth. Thinking school operates on a fundamentally broken premise. That time equals value. You spend time in class, you get credit. You spend time on homework, you get grades. More time studying equals better results. It's a linear equation that makes sense in an educational setting, but destroys your wealth-building potential in the real world. The hours work delusion from elementary school through college, you're evaluated based on time spent. Attendance matters, showing up counts. Putting in the hours is rewarded even if the output is mediocre. This creates adults who think working long hours makes them valuable. They brag about working 60-hour weeks like it's a badge of honor. They stay late at the office to show dedication. They equate busy with productive. Meanwhile, wealthy people optimize for output per hour, not hours worked. They ask, how can I generate more value in less time? Not, how can I work more hours? A consultant billing $500 per hour for 20 hours per week makes more than someone earning $50 per hour for 60 hours per week, while working a third of the time. But school never teaches you to think in terms of value per hour. It teaches you to think in terms of hours completed. The homework trap. Homework is literally training you to bring work home, to blur the boundary between work time and personal time, to accept that your obligations extend beyond official hours. Then you get a job and surprise, checking emails at night is normal, working weekends is expected, being available 24/7 is professionalism. You never question it because you've been doing homework at night since you were 7 years old. Wealthy people guard their time viciously. They understand that personal time isn't something your employer graciously allows you to have. It's the default, and work time is what you're selling. But you've been trained since childhood that your time belongs to the institution. The single income stream programming school teaches you one way to earn. Show up, do the work, get the paycheck. One job, one income source, one path. This is insanely risky from a financial perspective. If that one income source disappears, you're screwed. You've got no diversification. All your eggs in one basket. One company decides to downsize, and your entire financial life collapses. But because school operates this way, one institution, one set of grades, one path to graduation, you never learn to think about multiple income streams. The concept feels weird or sketchy or like it requires superhuman effort. Meanwhile, wealthy people have multiple income streams: salary plus investments plus business income plus real estate plus royalties. They're diversified. If one stream dries up, they're still fine. But you were never taught to build this way. You were taught to find one good job and stick with it. That's poverty thinking disguised as responsibility. The immediate gratification reversal. Here's something bizarre. School teaches you to delay gratification. Study now, succeed later, while simultaneously teaching you to expect immediate rewards. Take a test, get a grade within days. This creates confused adults who intellectually understand delayed gratification, but emotionally need immediate feedback. You start a business and expect results within weeks because that's how school worked. You invest money and check the account daily because you're used to immediate grading. Real wealth building requires actual delayed gratification, like years of it. Plant seeds, wait patiently, harvest much later. But school's quarterly grading system taught you to think in 3-month cycles at most. So you give up on investments that don't show results immediately. You abandon business ideas that don't profit within months. You lack the patience required for real wealth building because school taught you to expect faster feedback loops. The busy work acceptance. How much of school was actually useful versus busy work? Be honest. How many worksheets, assignments, and projects were genuinely valuable versus just filling time? Most of it was busy work, and you learned to accept it. To do meaningless tasks because you were told to not question whether something is valuable, just whether it's required. This creates employees who accept pointless meetings, useless reports, and bureaucratic nonsense without questioning it. You've been trained that busy work is normal, that doing things just because someone said so is professionalism. Wealthy people eliminate busy work ruthlessly. They ask, does this generate value? And if the answer is no, They don't do it. But you've been trained for 16 years to do tasks, whether they make sense or not. The scarcity mindset installation school operates on scarcity. There are limited A's available, grade curves, limited spots in advanced classes, limited scholarships, limited opportunities. You learn that success is scarce, that for you to win, someone else must lose, that resources are limited and you need to compete viciously for your share. This creates adults with scarcity mindsets. They see economics as zero-sum. They're threatened by other people's success. They hoard opportunities instead of collaborating. Wealth building requires abundance mindset, understanding that value can be created, not just redistributed, that collaboration creates more opportunities for everyone, that someone else succeeding doesn't diminish your potential, but school literally grades on a curve, ensuring that your success comes at the expense of your classmates. This programming runs deep. The permission salary. Think about how school works. You do the work, then someone else decides if it's good enough. They assign value to your effort. You have no say in your grade. You can't negotiate it. You just accept their assessment of your worth. This trains you to let employers determine your value. They offer a salary, and you accept their assessment. The idea of demanding more feels uncomfortable because you've been trained to accept the authority's valuation. Entrepreneurs determine their own value. They set their prices. If someone doesn't want to pay, they find someone who will. But you've been trained to accept whatever value others assign to you. The retirement delusion school teaches you to work now for benefits 40+ years in the future. Graduate high school to go to college, graduate college to get a job, work a job for decades to get retirement. This is insane. You're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, your healthiest, most energetic years, grinding away for a payoff when you're 65 and tired. Maybe, if you don't die first, if the system doesn't change, if the company doesn't eliminate pensions. Wealthy people optimize for freedom now. They build assets that generate income so they can live well today, not just in some hypothetical future that might never come, but school trains you to sacrifice your present for a promised future. Work hard now, enjoy life later. Except later keeps getting pushed back, and you spend your best years grinding. Chapter 5. The Creativity Killer. How Standardized Education Destroys Wealth-Building Skills. Here's an uncomfortable truth. The skills that make you wealthy are precisely the ones school systematically destroys. Creativity, critical thinking, unconventional problem-solving, these are wealth-building superpowers, and school treats them like bugs to be fixed rather than features to be developed. The one right answer. Disease, every test has one correct answer. Every math problem has one solution. Every essay has a rubric with specific requirements. Deviation equals wrong. Creativity equals points deducted. This trains your brain that for every problem there's one correct solution, and your job is to find what someone else already decided was right, not to create new solutions, not to think differently, just to identify the pre-approved answer. Then you enter the business world where the most valuable skill is finding solutions nobody else has thought of, creating new approaches, thinking differently, and you can't do it because you've been trained for 16 years that there's always one right answer, and creativity is how you get marked wrong. Wealth is created by people who solve problems in new ways, who see opportunities others miss, who create products and services that didn't exist before. That requires creative thinking, and school systematically kills that ability. The conformity reward system, dress code, behavior code, academic code, follow the rules, get rewarded, break the rules, get punished, conform to expectations, succeed, be different, fail. The students who do best in school are the ones who most effectively conform. They figure out what the teacher wants and deliver. Exactly that. They don't question. They don't deviate. They don't innovate. They conform. And conformity is the enemy of wealth creation. Every major fortune was built by someone who refused to conform, who saw that everyone was doing X and decided to do Y instead, who broke conventions and created new paths. But you spent your most formative years being rewarded for conformity and punished for deviation. That programming doesn't just disappear when you graduate. The standardized testing mindset. Standardized tests are the ultimate conformity tool. Everyone takes the same test. Everyone is measured by the same standard. Individual differences don't matter. Unique strengths are irrelevant. You're just a number compared to other numbers. This creates adults who think there's a standardized path to success. Follow the formula. take the right steps, check the boxes, and you'll get the predetermined result. Except wealth doesn't work that way. There's no standardized test for building a successful business. No formula that guarantees investment returns, no boxes to check that ensure financial success. Wealth requires adapting to your unique situation, strengths, and opportunities. It requires personalized strategies, not standardized approaches. But you've been trained to look for the standard answer, the proven path, the safe bet. The passion suppression school decides what you learn and when you learn it. Interested in astronomy, but it's time for grammar? Too bad. Passionate about coding, but it's not offered until 10th grade? Wait your turn. Want to dive deep into something that fascinates you? Not on the curriculum. This teaches you to suppress your interests in favor of what you're supposed to be doing, to ignore your passion because it's not on the schedule, to pursue what's expected rather than what excites you. Then you wonder why you hate your job, why you're not motivated, why you're going through the motions. It's because you've been trained since childhood to ignore what you're passionate about and do what you're told instead. Meanwhile, wealthy people almost universally pursued their passions or interests. They found a way to monetize what they loved. They didn't suppress their interests. They built careers around them. But school taught you that your interests are hobbies, not careers. That passion is what you do after work, not during it. That real success means doing what you're supposed to do, not what you want to do. The mistake punishment. Make a mistake in school? That's a lower grade. Make multiple mistakes? You fail. Mistakes are bad. Avoid them at all costs. The goal is to get everything right the first time. This creates adults who are terrified of failure, who avoid trying new things because they might fail, who play it safe because mistakes are catastrophic. But wealth building requires mistakes. Lots of them. Every successful entrepreneur has a string of failures. Every successful investor has losing investments. Every wealthy person has tried things that didn't work. The difference is they see mistakes as data, not as judgments on their worth. They try, fail, learn, adjust, and try again. But you can't do that easily because you've been trained that mistakes mean you're inadequate. School should teach you to fail fast, learn quickly, and iterate. Instead, it teaches you that failure is shameful and should be avoided. That mindset keeps you poor. The creativity window that closes. Young children are naturally creative. They draw, imagine, create stories, build things, experiment. They haven't learned yet to be self-conscious or afraid of being wrong. Then school starts, and gradually, systematically, that creativity gets trained out. By middle school, most kids have learned that being creative means being weird. By high school, they've learned to suppress creative impulses and just give teachers what they want. By the time you graduate, your creativity muscle has atrophied. You can follow instructions brilliantly. You can replicate what others have done. But creating something genuinely new, that skill has been dormant for years, and reactivating it is hard. Some people never do. They spend their entire lives in jobs that require following processes, never creating anything new, never taking creative risks, because school taught them not to. The subject silo problem: math class teaches math, English teaches English, history teaches history, never shall they meet. Everything is siloed, separate, unconnected. This creates adults who think in silos, who can't connect ideas across domains, who miss opportunities that exist at the intersection of different fields. But wealth creation almost always happens at intersections. Technology meets biology, biotech fortunes, art meets code, NFTs and digital media empires, finance meets real estate, REIT success stories. The most valuable insights come from combining knowledge from different domains. But you were trained to think in separate boxes, never connecting dots across fields. The intrinsic motivation destruction. Young kids love learning. They're naturally curious. They want to understand how things work. Learning is intrinsically rewarding. Then school introduces grades, and suddenly, learning isn't about curiosity, it's about the grade. You don't learn because you want to understand. You learn to get an A. You study not out of interest, but out of requirement. This destroys intrinsic motivation and replaces it with extrinsic motivation. You do things for external rewards, grades, praise, approval, rather than internal satisfaction. Then you get a job and have no intrinsic motivation. You work for the paycheck, not because the work matters. You're not driven by purpose or passion, just by external rewards. Wealthy people are often intrinsically motivated. They work on things because they find them interesting, meaningful, or exciting. The money is important, but it's not the only motivator. They're driven by something deeper. But school killed that in you. It trained you to need external validation, external motivation, external rewards. Without them, you're lost. Chapter 6. The Financial Illiteracy Factory. What school doesn't teach about money. Here's the most damning indictment of the education system. You can graduate with honors, having spent 16 plus years in school, and not know how to file taxes, what a 401k is, how compound interest actually works in real life, or why credit card debt will destroy you. This isn't an oversight. This is systematic financial illiteracy, and it keeps people poor. The tax education void. You know what you learn about taxes in school? Basically nothing. Maybe that they exist. Maybe something vague about how government is funded. But practical tax knowledge? How to file? What deductions exist? How different income types are taxed differently? Nothing. So you get your first job, look at your paycheck, and have no idea why so much is missing. You don't understand FICA, federal withholding, state taxes. You just accept that a big chunk disappears before you see it. And because you don't understand taxes, you don't understand tax strategy. You don't know that self-employment can lower your tax burden, that investing has tax advantages, that real estate offers depreciation benefits, that there are legal ways to significantly reduce what you pay. You just hand over 25 to 35% of your income without understanding there are alternatives, and this costs you hundreds of thousands over a lifetime. Why doesn't school teach this? Because the system benefits from your ignorance. Financially illiterate people are easier to extract value from. They accept the default. They don't optimize. They don't question. The credit card trap. Credit cards are wealth destruction devices for people who don't understand them, and wealth building tools for people who do. School teaches you neither the danger nor the strategy. So you graduate, get offered a credit card with a $5,000 limit, and think free money. You don't understand that 23% APR means your $100 purchase costs $123 if you carry a balance for a year. You don't understand how minimum payments are calculated to keep you in debt forever. You certainly don't understand credit card rewards optimization, using cards for cashback and paying them off monthly, treating them as transaction tools rather than loans. You just know, swipe card, buy thing, deal with consequences later, and those consequences are devastating. The average American has over $6,000 in credit card debt. At 20% interest, that's $1,200 per year just in interest payments. Money gone, forever, for nothing. But school never taught you this. Personal finance class doesn't exist in most schools. You learn about the Pythagorean theorem, but not about compound interest working against you. The investing ignorance. School teaches you to save money, put it in a savings account, be responsible, watch it grow. Except savings accounts pay basically nothing. At 0.5% interest while inflation is 3 to 4%, you're losing money. Your savings are actively becoming less valuable. You're being punished for following the advice. Meanwhile, investing in index funds historically returns 10% annually. That difference compounds massively. $10,000 in a savings account at 0.5% becomes $10,511 after 10 years. That same $10,000 invested at 10% becomes $25,937. But school doesn't teach you this, so you save like a responsible person, watching your money become less valuable, thinking you're doing the right thing. And you certainly don't learn about asset allocation, risk management, dollar cost averaging tax-advantaged accounts, compound growth investment vehicles beyond stocks. You're financially illiterate by design, making wealth building nearly impossible. The budget blindness school doesn't teach budgeting. You have no idea how to track expenses, categorize spending, identify waste, or plan financially. So you get your paycheck and it just disappears. You know you spent it, but on what? No idea. Where did $300 go? Mystery. Why don't you have money at the end of the month? Unknown. This is how people making $80,000 annually are living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they don't make enough, but because they have no spending awareness. Money comes in, money goes out, there's never anything left. Meanwhile, wealthy people track every dollar. They know where their money goes. They optimize spending. They identify and eliminate waste. But you never learn this skill. School taught you algebra, but not how to create a personal budget. Priorities, the retirement account confusion, 401k, IRA, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, 403b, SEPIRA. These are just words to most people. Confusing acronyms nobody explained. So you get a job offering a 401k match, and you either A, don't participate because you don't understand it, B, participate minimally because you're scared of what you don't understand, C, make suboptimal choices about contributions and investments. That 401k match is free money. If your employer matches 5% and you don't contribute, you're literally turning down a 5% raise. But many people do exactly this because school never taught them about retirement accounts. And even those who participate often don't understand the investment choices. They pick random funds with high fees. They don't rebalance. They panic sell during downturns. They make every mistake possible because nobody taught them. The insurance mystery: health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance, umbrella policies, each type matters, each has complexities, each can save you or cost you massive amounts. But school teaches you nothing about insurance, so you either buy too much from a pushy salesman, buy too little, because you don't understand the risks, choose the wrong types because you don't know what you need, pay way too much because you don't know how to shop around. Insurance is one of those things that seems boring until you desperately need it, and then your lack of understanding costs you enormously. But school would rather teach you about the Krebs cycle than how to evaluate an insurance policy. Good luck with that when you're trying to figure out deductibles and co-pays while starting your first job. The salary negotiation absence. Your salary negotiations determine your earning trajectory for years. The difference between accepting $50,000 and negotiating for $60,000 isn't just $10,000. It's that plus every raise being a percentage of the higher base. Over a 40-year career, that $10,000 difference compounds to roughly $600,000 in lost earnings. $500,000 because you didn't negotiate. But school never teaches you to negotiate. Not salary, not anything. You're taught to accept what authority figures determine, to be grateful for what you're given, to not rock the boat. So you walk into salary negotiations with no preparation, no strategy, no understanding of your market value, and you leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table across your career. February 12th, Chapter 7, The Social Programming, How School Creates Poverty Mindsets. School doesn't just fail to teach you about money, it actively installs thought patterns and beliefs that keep you poor. These aren't academic lessons, they're social programming embedded in how school operates, and they're arguably more damaging than the financial illiteracy because they're invisible. You don't even realize these beliefs are there, working against you every single day. The stay-in-your-lane mentality school sorts you early and often. You're either smart or you're not. You're college-bound or vocational track. You're advanced or remedial. Honors or regular, gifted or average. These labels stick, and they create a limiting belief system where you stay in your assigned lane. If you weren't labeled gifted, you internalize that you're not exceptional. If you struggled with math, you believe you're not a numbers person. If you didn't get into honors classes, you think you're not smart enough for high-level achievement. This is devastating for wealth building, because wealth requires believing you can do things you haven't done before, that you can learn skills you don't have, that you can achieve things beyond your current station. But school taught you to stay in your lane, to accept your assigned category, to not reach beyond what you've been labeled capable of. Entrepreneurs ignore these lanes. They try things they're not qualified for. They enter industries they know nothing about. They refuse to accept limitations based on past performance. But you've been trained to respect the lanes, to stay where you've been placed, to accept your assigned ceiling. The peer pressure poverty school is where you learn to care desperately about what other people think. Your social status depends on fitting in. Being different is social suicide. Conforming to peer expectations is survival. This creates adults who make financial decisions based on social pressure rather than economic sense. You buy a house you can't afford because that's what successful people do. You lease a new car to look prosperous. You go on vacations you can't afford because everyone else is posting them on Instagram. You're not building wealth, you're performing wealth for an audience, and the performance is bankrupting you. Wealthy people don't care what others think. They drive old cars while building investment portfolios. They live below their means while accumulating assets. They ignore social pressure to appear wealthy and focus on actually becoming wealthy. But you were trained for 12 plus years that peer approval matters more than anything. That lesson doesn't disappear just because you graduated. The good enough acceptance school teaches you that B's are fine, that passing is the goal, that you don't need to excel at everything. And in many ways, this is healthy. Perfectionism is toxic, but it also trains you to accept good enough when it comes to income, career, and life. You get a job that pays okay, and you stop pushing. You're making enough to survive, so why rock the boat? You're doing fine, so why take risks? This good enough mindset is poison for wealth building. Wealth requires pushing past comfortable. It requires wanting more and being willing to work for it. It requires not accepting the default. But school taught you that exceeding expectations is optional. That good enough is, well, good enough. So you settle for middle-class income when you could be building wealth, simply because you learned that exceeding the minimum is extra credit, not required. The authority worship. From kindergarten through college, authority figures know best. Teachers are always right, administrators make the rules, experts have the answers. Your job is to listen, learn, and obey. This creates adults who outsource their thinking to authority figures. Financial advisors must know best, even when they're just selling products. Economists must understand the market, even though they constantly get it wrong. Bosses must have good reasons for their decisions, even when they're incompetent. You don't question. You don't think independently. You defer to authority because that's what school trained you to do. Wealthy people question everything. They get second opinions. They trust but verify. They understand that authorities can be wrong, biased, or self-interested. But you were trained to assume authority figures are competent and well-intentioned. So you follow bad financial advice, stay in toxic jobs, and accept systems that don't serve you because someone in authority said that's how things are. The scarcity competition school operates on scarcity, limited spots in advanced classes, limited A grades if there's a curve, limited scholarships, limited leadership positions. You're competing against your peers for finite resources. This trains you to see economics as zero-sum. Someone else's success diminishes your opportunities. Resources are limited. You need to compete, not collaborate. This mindset is devastating in the real world. It prevents partnerships and collaborations. It makes you see other people's success as threatening rather than inspiring. It creates a mindset where you hoard opportunities instead of creating new ones. Wealth creation is positive sum. When someone builds a successful business, they create value that didn't exist before. They don't take from a finite pie, they make the pie bigger. But school's competitive structure taught you scarcity thinking, and scarcity thinking keeps you fighting over scraps instead of creating abundance. The external validation addiction. Your entire school experience is about external validation. Did the teacher approve? Did you get a good grade? Did you get recognition? Did you win the award? You're trained to need external validation to feel successful, to look outside yourself for confirmation that you're doing well. This creates adults who need constant validation from employers, partners, society. You stay in jobs you hate because you're getting promotions, external validation. You buy things you don't need because of how they make you look to others, external validation. You pursue careers that impress people rather than fulfill you, external validation. Wealthy people have internal validation. They know what matters to them. They don't need society's approval to feel successful. They pursue goals that are personally meaningful even if others don't understand. But you're addicted to external validation. You need the gold star, the promotion, the social approval. And that addiction leads you to make financially destructive decisions in pursuit of validation instead of wealth. The present bias training school trains you to focus on the short term, study for the test next week, complete the project by Friday, pass this semester, get through this year. Long-term thinking is abstract and unrewarded. Yes, school talks about college and careers, but the daily experience is about immediate deadlines and short-term goals. This creates adults with present bias. You focus on immediate concerns rather than long-term wealth building. You spend today's money instead of investing for future returns. You optimize for this quarter instead of the next decade. Wealth building requires long-term thinking. Plant seeds that take years to grow. Make sacrifices now for payoffs later. Delay gratification for compound returns. But school trained you to think in terms of semesters and school years, not decades, so you make short-term decisions that feel good now but destroy wealth long-term. The just follow instructions dependency school provides instructions for everything. Here's the assignment, here's the rubric, here are the steps, follow them and succeed. This creates adults who need instructions, who feel lost without a clear path, who wait for someone to tell them what to do. Entrepreneurship and wealth building don't come with instructions. There's no rubric for success. There's no teacher providing steps. You have to figure it out yourself, make your own path, create your own instructions. But you've been trained to wait for instructions, to feel uncomfortable without clear guidance, to doubt yourself when there's no external structure. This dependency keeps you employed instead of entrepreneurial, following someone else's path instead of creating your own. Chapter 8. The Opportunity Cost Massacre. What you could have learned instead. Let's do some uncomfortable math. You spend approximately 16,000 hours in K-12 education. Add college, and that's another 5,000 to 7,000 hours. We're talking 20,000 plus hours of your life dedicated to formal education. The question nobody asks, what's the opportunity cost? What else could you have learned in those 20,000 hours that would actually make you wealthy? The skills that actually generate wealth. Here's a list of skills that directly generate income: sales and persuasion, marketing and copywriting, negotiation, public speaking, basic accounting and bookkeeping, investment analysis, business operations, digital marketing, content creation, coding and technical skills, project management, leadership and team building. Now here's a question. How many of those did school teach you? Maybe one or two if you got lucky with electives. Most? 0. You spent 20,000 hours learning things that don't generate income and exactly 0 hours learning things that do. That's not education, that's systematic wealth. Prevention. The 10,000-hour rule applied to wealth. Malcolm Gladwell popularized the concept that 10,000 hours of practice makes you world-class at a skill. Debate the exact number all you want, but the principle holds: significant time investment creates expertise. You spent 16,000 hours in K-12. If you'd spent even half of that, 8,000 hours, learning high-value skills, you'd be expert level at multiple wealth-generating abilities by age 18. Imagine graduating high school as an expert salesperson, a skilled investor who understands markets, a competent coder who can build products, a marketing expert who understands consumer psychology, a negotiator who can create win-win deals. That person would be set up for wealth. Instead, you can recite the quadratic formula, which you've never used since the test, and name all the presidents in order, which has earned you exactly $0. The real-world experience gap. While you were in school, you could have been starting businesses and learning through failure, apprenticing with successful people in fields you're interested in, building real skills through real projects with real consequences, creating products, testing them in markets, learning what works, networking with people who could mentor you or partner with you, earning money and learning how to manage it practically, but you were in a classroom instead, learning theory without practice, concepts without application, information without context. Every year you spent in school is a year you didn't spend building real-world skills and experience. That's not to say school has zero value, but the opportunity cost is enormous. A 22-year-old college graduate is entering the workforce with zero real experience. A 22-year-old who started working or building businesses at 18 has 4 years of practical experience, mistakes, lessons, and growth. Who's more prepared for wealth building? The person with a diploma or the person with experience? The Skill Mismatch Crisis School teaches you skills that were valuable 50 years ago. Memorization, now we have Google. Handwriting, now we have keyboards. Following standardized processes, now we have automation. Meanwhile, the skills that are valuable today go untaught. Digital literacy and online business, personal branding and content creation, remote work and digital collaboration, adaptability and continuous learning, creative problem solving in ambiguous situations, cross-cultural communication in a global economy. You're being prepared for a world that no longer exists, while being utterly unprepared for the world that does exist. That's not just inefficient, it's actively harmful to your wealth potential. The lost earning years. Let's talk pure economics. College takes 4 years and costs $100,000 plus on average. That's 4 years of lost income plus the debt cost. Alternative path. Start working at 18, earning even a modest $30,000 per year. By 22, you've earned $120,000, probably more with raises, gained 4 years of experience, and have zero debt. The college graduate starts their career at 22 with minus $100,000 net worth. The worker starts at 22 with plus $120,000 if they saved anything, or at minimum $0 net worth. That's a $120,000 to $220,000 difference before careers even begin. For many degrees, the college graduate never catches up. The lost earning years plus the compound interest on debt they're paying means they're behind for decades, possibly forever. But school convinced you this was a good investment, without teaching you to calculate whether it actually was. The entrepreneurial education that never happened. Imagine if school taught entrepreneurship, starting small businesses in middle school, learning from failures in a low-stakes environment, understanding customer needs and market dynamics, building, launching, iterating on real products, managing money from real transactions, learning marketing by actually marketing. By the time you graduated, you'd have tried dozens of business ideas. Most would fail, a few might succeed, all would teach you invaluable lessons. Instead, you wrote essays about entrepreneurs. You learned about business theory. You studied case studies of companies, all abstract, none practical. That's like learning to swim by reading about swimming and never getting in water. It's fundamentally broken. The investment education that vanished. Start investing at 18 with $100 per month, even if it's in a simple index fund earning 10% annually. By 65, that's over $1.1 million. Start investing at 22, after college, with $100 per month. By 65, that's $680,000. That 4-year delay costs you $420,000, almost $500,000. But school doesn't teach you this, so you don't start investing at 18. You probably don't start at 22 either because nobody taught you how or why. You might start in your 30s if you're lucky. Every year you delay is compound growth. Lost forever. And school doesn't just fail to teach you this, it actively delays your financial education by keeping you in the system longer. The network that doesn't build wealth school connects you with other students, people who are also broke, also inexperienced, also starting from zero. That's your network. If instead you'd spent those years working, you'd have networked with professionals, entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, people who could hire you, partner with you, teach you, invest in you. Your network determines your net worth more than your education does, but school gives you the least valuable possible network while convincing you it's prestigious. The life skills that never came. School doesn't teach you how to maintain your health, affecting earning potential, how to manage relationships, affecting partnerships and networking, how to think clearly and avoid cognitive biases, affecting decision-making, how to manage stress and avoid burnout, affecting longevity, how to communicate effectively, affecting everything, how to learn efficiently, affecting all future skill acquisition. These life skills have enormous economic impact, but they're not on the curriculum, so you enter adulthood unprepared for basic life management, let alone wealth building. Chapter 9. The Alternative Paths. What the wealthy do differently. Here's what's interesting. If you look at the Forbes 400 or any list of the wealthiest people, you'll notice a pattern. Many didn't follow the traditional education path. They either dropped out, never went, or treated it as secondary to their real education. This isn't coincidence. Let's examine what wealthy people do differently and why it works. The apprenticeship model before modern schooling, people learned through apprenticeships. You worked alongside someone skilled, learning by doing, getting immediate feedback, building real competency. This model still creates wealth, but it's been abandoned by mainstream society. Wealthy families know this. They connect their kids with successful people. They create informal apprenticeships. They prioritize real-world learning over classroom theory. A 16-year-old apprenticing with a successful entrepreneur learns more about wealth building in 6 months than they would in 4 years of business school. They see real decisions, real consequences, real problem solving. But school tells you this isn't legitimate education. You need the diploma, the certification, the official credential. Meanwhile, the apprentice is building actual skills and connections. The self-education approach. Wealthy people are voracious learners, but they direct their own education. They learn what's useful when it's useful. They don't wait for a curriculum or a semester schedule. Need to understand marketing? Read the top 10 marketing books, take an online course, hire a consultant to teach you, launch a campaign, and learn from results. Total time, maybe 100 hours. Total cost, maybe $1,000. School's approach, take marketing 101, 201, 301, and 401 over 4 semesters. Learning theory before practice, paying thousands per course, moving at the slowest student's pace. Self-directed learning is faster, cheaper, and more relevant, but school taught you to wait for someone to tell you what to learn and when to learn it. The skill stacking strategy. Wealthy people don't just develop one skill. They stack complementary skills that multiply in value. Being a good writer is valuable. Being a good marketer is valuable. Being a good writer and a good marketer makes you exponentially more valuable because you can create marketing content, add basic design skills, and now you can produce complete marketing campaigns. Add sales skills, and you can sell what you create. Each skill multiplies the value of others. School makes you specialize. Pick a major, focus narrowly, become an expert in one thing. This made sense in the industrial age when you do one job for 40 years. It's terrible advice in the modern economy where versatility and adaptability create wealth. The bias toward action school teaches you to plan, research, study, and prepare. Then prepare more. Then maybe eventually when you're fully ready, take action. Except you're never fully ready. So many people never act. Wealthy people have a bias toward action. Try, fail, learn, adjust, try again. Repeat rapidly. Don't wait for perfect information or perfect preparation. Start with what you have and improve as you go. This creates a massive experience gap. While you're studying and preparing, they're doing and learning. By the time you feel ready to start, they've already failed 5 times and succeeded twice. School's perfectionism and fear of failure create paralysis. The wealthy embrace imperfect action and rapid iteration. The multiple income stream mentality. Wealthy people diversify income sources from the start. They're not looking for one perfect job. They're building multiple income streams simultaneously. A side business while employed, investments generating passive income, freelance work providing extra cash, rental properties producing monthly income. Each stream is relatively small initially, but compounds over time. School prepares you for one job, one income source, one path. This makes you completely vulnerable. That job disappears, your entire income vanishes. Multiple income streams provide security, growth potential, and wealth building that single income employment can never match. The leverage understanding. Wealthy people understand leverage, using other people's time, money, knowledge, or resources to multiply your results. Hire people to do tasks you're not good at. Borrow money to invest in assets that generate returns. Use other people's expertise instead of learning everything yourself. Build systems that work without your constant input. School taught you to do everything yourself. That working alone is honest and working with others is cheating. That borrowing money is bad. That you need to be self-sufficient. This is small thinking. You can only scale so far alone. Wealth requires leverage. The network-first approach. Wealthy people prioritize relationships and networking over credentials. They understand that who you know creates more opportunities than what you know. They attend events, join groups, build relationships intentionally. They provide value to their network. They think long-term about relationships, not transactionally. School taught you that academic performance matters most, that credentials open doors, that networking is something you do after you've achieved success. The reality is reversed. Networking creates the opportunities that lead to success. The credential is far less important than the connections. Chapter 9, continued. The alternative paths. The investment in assets, not credentials. Wealthy. People invest in income-generating assets as early as possible. Real estate, businesses, stocks, things that produce returns. Poor people invest in credentials, hoping the credential will eventually lead to income. The credential itself generates nothing. It's a bet that someone will pay you more because you have it. That's a single point of failure. If the credential doesn't lead to higher income, and increasingly many don't, you've wasted time and money on something with zero intrinsic value. Meanwhile, the person who invested in assets has been generating returns the entire time. Their money has been working for them while you were in class. The specific problem-solving focus wealthy people identify specific, valuable problems and learn exactly what's needed to solve them. They don't pursue broad, general education. They pursue targeted, practical knowledge, need to understand real estate investing, learn specifically about real estate, not general finance theory, not economics history, just the practical knowledge needed to analyze and purchase properties. This creates immediate applicability. Everything learned gets used immediately, which reinforces the knowledge and provides immediate returns. School teaches you broadly and theoretically. Most of what you learn is never applied, so it's forgotten, and it generates zero income because it's not specific enough to solve real problems. The experimentation mindset. Wealthy people treat life like a laboratory. Try things, run experiments, see what works. Don't assume, test. Want to know if a business idea is viable? Don't spend 6 months planning. Spend 1 week launching a minimum viable version and see if anyone buys. Want to know if you can make money freelancing? Don't get certified first. Offer your services to one client at a discount and learn by doing. This experimental approach accelerates learning and reduces wasted time. You find out what works quickly and double down. You find out what doesn't work quickly and move on. School's approach is the opposite. Extensive preparation before any real-world testing. By the time you launch anything, you've invested so much that failure feels catastrophic, so you avoid launching at all. The contrarian willingness. Wealthy people are willing to go against conventional wisdom. When everyone says X, they're willing to explore not X. Everyone says go to college, they consider alternatives. Everyone says real estate is risky, they research it objectively. Everyone says you need a traditional career, they explore entrepreneurship. This contrarian thinking is how opportunities are found. The conventional path is crowded and therefore returns are limited. The unconventional path has more risk, but also more potential reward. School teaches conformity. Do what everyone else does. Follow the proven path. Don't be different. This guarantees you'll get average results at best because you're doing what everyone else is doing. The rapid failure iteration. In school, failure is permanent. Fail a test, that grade stays. Fail a class, it's on your transcript forever. This makes failure terrifying and rare. Wealthy people fail constantly. They just do it quickly, learn from it, and move on. Fail fast, fail cheap, fail forward. Launch a product that doesn't sell? Failure, but you learned about market demand. Start a business that closes after 6 months? Failure, but you learned about operations. Try a marketing strategy that flops? Failure, but you learned what doesn't work. Each failure is data that informs the next attempt. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, the faster you succeed. But you were trained to avoid failure at all costs. So you move slowly, over-prepare, and ultimately take fewer shots, which means you learn slower and succeed later, if at all. The mentor-seeking behavior. Wealthy people actively seek mentors, people who've done what they want to do. They offer value in exchange for knowledge. They learn from others' mistakes instead of making every mistake themselves. This accelerates success dramatically. Instead of figuring everything out from scratch, you're learning from someone who's already solved the problems you're facing. School gives you teachers, but they're teaching curriculum, not mentoring your specific path to wealth. The relationship is standardized, not personalized. Real mentorship is personalized. Someone who understands your specific situation, goals, and challenges, and who helps you navigate them based on their experience. But school never taught you how to find mentors, build these relationships, or leverage them for growth. So you try to figure everything out alone. Chapter 10. The Systemic Design. Why school is built this way. Here's the uncomfortable truth. School isn't accidentally failing to prepare you for wealth. The system is working exactly as designed. It was never meant to create wealthy individuals. It was meant to create compliant workers. Understanding this helps you stop blaming yourself and start working around the system. The Industrial Revolution origins modern public education was designed in the 1800s during the Industrial Revolution. The goal was clear: prepare children to work in factories. Factories needed workers who show up on time, hence attendance requirements, follow instructions without questioning, hence obedience emphasis, perform repetitive tasks, hence standardized testing, accept hierarchical authority, hence teacher-student power dynamics, work in shifts, hence grade levels and scheduled periods. This system created perfect factory workers, and for 100 plus years that worked economically. Factory jobs paid middle-class wages. Following the system led to stability, but we're not in the Industrial Revolution anymore. Factories have been automated or moved overseas. The economy has changed completely, but the education system hasn't. We're still training kids for factory work that doesn't exist, using a model from the 1800s, and wondering why they're not prepared for wealth creation in the 2000s. The government's incentive structure governments don't benefit from citizens who are wealthy and independent. They benefit from citizens who are employed, paying taxes, and dependent on the system. Wealthy people have options. They can leave the country, they can structure income to minimize taxes, they can influence policy. They're harder to control. Employees are easy, they're geographically stuck, they pay maximum taxes, they have limited influence, they need the system. Public education produces the latter, not the former. It's not a conspiracy, it's just aligned incentives. The system produces what it's incentivized to produce. The education industry's business model. The education industry is now a massive business. Universities have billion-dollar endowments. Student loan companies make fortunes. Textbook publishers have guaranteed markets. This industry benefits from keeping you in school longer. The more credentials you need, the more tuition they collect. The more student loans you take, the more interest they earn. Your financial success after graduation? That's not their problem. They already got paid. Whether your degree was worth the cost is irrelevant to their business model. They're incentivized to sell you more education regardless of whether it creates value, and they've successfully convinced society that more education always equals more value, even when the data shows otherwise. The credential cartel professional organizations have successfully convinced society and lawmakers that you need credentials to work in many fields. Not because the credentials prove competence, but because limiting supply increases wages for those already in the profession. Lawyers fought for bar exam requirements, doctors fought for medical licensing, teachers fought for teaching certificates, not to protect consumers, to protect their monopoly. This creates artificial barriers that require years of expensive education, and these barriers are often maintained by the very people who benefited from earlier, easier entry. The latter gets pulled up behind them. They want fewer competitors, so they support requirements that make entry harder. The status quo maintenance. The education system is massive. Millions of jobs depend on it. Enormous infrastructure exists around it. Changing it threatens all of that. So there's institutional resistance to any fundamental reform. Teachers' unions fight change. Administrators defend the system. Politicians avoid education reform because it's politically dangerous. Everyone within the system has an incentive to maintain it, regardless of whether it's serving students well. The system serves itself first, students second. The class reproduction function. Here's something dark. Education. Systems tend to reproduce existing class structures rather than enable class mobility. Wealthy families know the game. They supplement public education with private tutors, enrichment programs, networking opportunities, and real-world learning experiences. Their kids get actual preparation for wealth alongside the credential. Poor families can only provide the credential. Their kids get the standardized education without the supplementary wealth training. So wealthy kids stay wealthy. They got both the credential and the real education. Poor kids stay poor. They only got the credential, which isn't sufficient. Middle-class kids sometimes move up, but often stay in place. The system maintains social stratification while appearing to offer equal opportunity. It's social reproduction disguised as meritocracy. The measurement problem education success is measured by graduation rates, test scores, and attendance, not by graduate wealth, happiness, or life success. Because schools are measured on these metrics, they optimize for them. High graduation rates, great test scores, perfect attendance. Whether graduates are actually prepared for wealth building is unmeasured and therefore unoptimized. You get what you measure. We measure compliance and credential acquisition, so that's what the system produces. The cognitive capture. Most people within the education system genuinely believe they're helping. Teachers care about students. Administrators think they're serving the mission. Everyone's well-intentioned, but they've been cognitively captured by the system. They can't imagine alternatives because they're too deeply embedded in the existing model. Suggest that college isn't necessary for everyone, they're offended. Propose that self-directed learning might be more effective, they're skeptical. Challenge the credential model, they're defensive. It's not malice, it's cognitive capture. The system has convinced its participants that it's not just good but necessary and that alternatives are dangerous. The lock-in effect. Once you're in the system, it's hard to leave. Drop out of high school, limited options. Don't go to college, social stigma, leave college before finishing, debt with no degree. The system has checkpoints that make exit painful. This keeps people in the system even when it's not serving them, because leaving feels worse than staying. It's like a subscription you can't cancel without penalty, so you keep paying, keep participating, even when you know it's not worth the cost. The Attention Economics School captures your attention during your most formative years. 13 plus years of your life, 6 to 8 hours per day, focused on the system's curriculum and priorities. That's 13 years you're not developing independent thinking about wealth, success, and life. You're absorbing the system's values, assumptions, and limitations. By the time you exit, those are your values too. You don't even question them, because they've been installed as your baseline assumptions about how the world works. This attention capture is arguably the most powerful aspect of the system. It shapes your worldview during your most malleable years. Chapter 11. The Debt Slavery Model. How Student Loans Trap Generations. Let's talk about something truly sinister. How student loans create a modern form of economic servitude that school conveniently doesn't warn you about. This isn't hyperbole. The student loan system is designed to extract wealth from the middle and lower classes for decades, limiting their economic mobility and life options. And it's all sold as investment in your future. The bankruptcy protection scam student loans are special. Unlike every other type of debt, credit cards, medical bills, business loans, even gambling debts, student loans cannot be discharged in bankruptcy except under extreme hardship conditions that are nearly impossible to prove. Think about that. You can gamble away $100,000 in Vegas, declare bankruptcy, and get relief. You can start a failed business with $100,000 in debt, declare bankruptcy, and start over. But borrow $100,000 for education, and you're stuck with it forever. Why? Because in 1976, Congress decided that student loans needed special protection. Banks lobbied for it, claiming students would abuse bankruptcy to avoid repayment. The protection was supposed to be temporary. It became permanent. Now banks can lend unlimited amounts to 18-year-olds with no income, no assets, no credit history, no ability to evaluate the investment, knowing the debt can never be escaped. It's risk-free lending. The only person taking risk is the student. This creates moral hazard. Banks have no incentive to ensure students are making good financial decisions. Schools have no incentive to keep costs reasonable. The loan gets approved regardless of whether the education will generate enough income to repay it. The compound interest time. Here's what they don't explain when you're signing loan documents at 18. Compound interest works against you as powerfully as it works for you in investments. Borrow $50,000 at 6% interest. Make minimum payments on an extended repayment plan. You'll pay over $80,000 total. That extra $30,000 is money you can never invest, use for a house down payment, or build wealth with. But it gets worse. Because you're making loan payments instead of investing, the opportunity cost is double. You lose the money you're paying, and you lose the returns you would have earned investing that money. Real cost of a $50,000 student loan over 20 years, factoring in opportunity cost if you'd invested that money instead at 8% returns, over $200,000 in lost wealth. They don't show you that calculation when you're applying to schools. They show you starting salaries and happy graduates. The math that would scare you away, hidden in fine print you don't read, the income-driven repayment trap. Income-driven repayment plans sound generous. Pay based on your income. If you don't make much, you pay less. After 20 to 25 years, remaining debt is forgiven. Here's what they don't tell you. The payments often don't cover the interest. Your loan balance grows even while you're making payments. You could pay for 10 years and owe more than when you started. The forgiven amount after 20 to 25 years, it's considered taxable income. If $50,000 is forgiven, you suddenly owe taxes on $50,000 of income. At 25% tax rate, that's $12,500 due immediately. Most people don't have that saved, and you've spent 20 to 25 years with limited financial flexibility. Can't save for retirement aggressively because of loan payments. Can't buy a house easily because debt-to-income ratio is too high. Can't start a business because you need steady income for payments. You've traded 20 to 25 years of economic freedom for that degree. Was it worth it? The career limitation affects student loans force you into career decisions based on debt, not passion or potential. Want to start a business? Can't risk it. You need steady income for loan payments. Want to take a lower-paying job you're passionate about? Can't afford it. Loan payments require maximum income. Want to take time off to travel, learn, or explore? Impossible. Payments don't pause for life. Your debt determines your career. Your career doesn't pay off your debt fast enough to free you. You're trapped. Wealthy people without debt can take risks, start businesses that might fail, take pay cuts for equity, spend years building something with delayed payoff. They have flexibility. You don't. Your loan payments removed your flexibility before your career even started. The generational wealth transfer. Here's the big picture. Student loans transfer wealth from young, mostly middle-class people to banks and loan servicers over decades. Money that could have been invested, building generational wealth, creating financial security, enabling entrepreneurship. All of that gets transferred to loan servicers as interest payments. This is a systematic transfer of wealth from the less wealthy to the more wealthy, and it's sold as opportunity. Previous generations could work summer jobs and pay for college. That's literally impossible now. College costs have increased 1,200% since 1980, while wages have increased maybe 20% in real terms. This forces debt on young people that previous generations never faced, and that debt prevents wealth building that previous generations could achieve. The system has made generational wealth building nearly impossible for middle-class families who use student loans. You're fighting against compound interest working in the wrong direction. The degree depreciation. When you buy a car, you know it depreciates. Lose 20% of value when you drive it off the lot. Lose more every year. Everyone understands this. Degrees depreciate too, but nobody talks about it. That computer science degree from 2000? Much of what you learned is obsolete. That marketing degree from 2015, the entire landscape has changed. But you're still paying for it. Still making payments on knowledge that's depreciating faster than you're paying down the principal. A car at least maintains some utility until it dies. A degree's utility decreases as the world changes, but the debt remains at full value. The comparison to other investments. If someone offered you an investment where you pay $100,000 up front or via loans, can't evaluate the ROI before committing, see highly variable returns depending on factors you can't control, can never escape the debt if it doesn't pay off, start seeing returns only after 4+ years, have no guarantee of positive returns, you'd call them insane and walk away. That's a terrible investment by any rational standard, but that's exactly what student loans are. An investment with terrible terms that you can't evaluate properly, can't escape if it fails, and may never pay off. The only reason people accept these terms is because they're 17 to 18 years old, under social pressure, and haven't been taught to evaluate investments critically. The psychological burden. Beyond the financial cost, student loan debt creates psychological burden that affects every life decision. Anxiety about payments, stress about job security, pressure to earn more, feeling trapped in careers you hate, delaying marriage, children, home buying because of debt. This psychological burden has real costs, health impacts from stress, relationship strain from financial pressure, reduced life satisfaction, missed opportunities because of risk aversion. You're not just paying with money, you're paying with mental health, life satisfaction, and opportunity cost. And nobody warned you about this when you signed the papers at 18. The school's zero accountability. Here's the most infuriating part. Schools face zero consequences for leaving graduates with unmanageable debt. Graduate with $200,000 in loans and a degree that leads to a $35,000 job? Not the school's problem. Can't find work in your field? Not their fault. Degree didn't provide the value promised? Too bad. The school got paid. The loans are guaranteed by the government. Whether you succeed or fail financially is irrelevant to their bottom line. Any other business would face accountability for selling a product that doesn't deliver value, but education is exempt. They can charge whatever they want, deliver whatever quality they want, and face no consequences when graduates can't afford to repay the loans. It's the perfect scam. Mandatory product. Society says you need the degree. Can't evaluate quality beforehand. You don't know if it's worth it until after. Can't return it. No refunds. And the debt can't be escaped. Bankruptcy protection. Chapter 12. The Entrepreneurship Enemy. How School Kills the Wealth-Building Mindset If You Want. To build real wealth, you almost certainly need to own something. A business, assets, intellectual property, something that generates value beyond your personal labor. School doesn't just fail to teach entrepreneurship, it actively kills the entrepreneurial mindset. Let's break down exactly how the system destroys your ability to think and act like an entrepreneur. The risk-punishment system. Entrepreneurship is fundamentally about taking calculated risks. You invest time, money, or both into something uncertain, hoping for a return. Sometimes you win big, often you fail and learn. Always you're accepting uncertainty. School punishes risk at every turn. Take a risk on a creative answer? Marked wrong? Try an unconventional approach to a problem? Doesn't match the rubric. Points deducted. Experiment with something new? That's not what I assigned. That's a 0. By the time you graduate, you've been conditioned that risk equals punishment, failure equals permanent record, deviation equals bad outcome, safe equals good outcome. This is poison for entrepreneurship. Every successful business involves risk. Every innovation requires trying things that might not work. Every breakthrough comes from deviating from the safe path. But you've been trained for 12 to 16 years that this is exactly what you shouldn't do. That training doesn't disappear because you graduated. The permission-based thinking. Want to start a club? Get approval? Want to do a project differently? Ask the teacher. Want to skip a useless class? Need permission? Want to learn something off curriculum? Not allowed. School teaches you that you need permission to do things, that someone else's approval is required before you can act. That authority must validate your decisions. Entrepreneurs don't ask permission. They see opportunities and seize them. They create new things without waiting for approval. They'd rather beg forgiveness than ask permission, but you've been trained to seek authorization for everything. So when you have a business idea, you subconsciously wait for someone to tell you it's okay to pursue it. You seek validation instead of taking action. You need external approval before you feel legitimate. This delay and hesitation kills entrepreneurship before it starts. The Employee Training Protocol School is literally designed to create employees, not employers. Let's look at the parallels. School, show up at specific times. Job, show up at specific times. School, follow someone else's schedule. Job, follow someone else's schedule. School, do what you're told when you're told. Job, do what you're told when you're told. School, someone else evaluates your performance. Job, someone else evaluates your performance. School, limited vacation and personal time. Job, limited vacation and personal time. School, penalties for questioning authority. Job, penalties for questioning authority. You're literally being trained to be a compliant employee every day. Reinforces employee behaviors, employee mindset, employee expectations. Entrepreneurship requires the opposite. Set your own schedule, direct your own work, evaluate your own performance, take time off when needed, question everything. But you've practiced being an employee for thousands of hours. Being an entrepreneur feels uncomfortable, unnatural, wrong, because you've been trained for a different role. The standardized path illusion school teaches you there's a path: elementary, middle school, high school, college, job, career, retirement. Linear, predictable, one way forward. This creates adults who think success is about following a path correctly. Do the steps in order, check the boxes, progress through the levels. There's a right way to do things. Entrepreneurship doesn't work this way. There's no path, no steps to follow, no levels to progress through. You have to create your own path, often by going where there is no path, but you've been trained that paths exist and success means following them. So entrepreneurship feels chaotic, directionless, wrong. You're looking for the path when the whole point is there is no path. The collaboration as cheating. In school, working together on individual assignments is cheating. Using someone else's work is plagiarism. Getting help is academic dishonesty. You succeed or fail alone. In business, collaboration is everything. Partnerships, teams, vendors, contractors, outsourcing, leveraging other people's skills, time, and knowledge. Nobody builds a successful business alone, but you've been trained that this is wrong, that using other people's work is dishonest, that real success is individual. So you try to do everything yourself. You don't delegate, you don't partner, you don't leverage, you struggle alone when you should be building teams. This DIY mentality limits how big you can scale and how fast you can grow. It's entrepreneur kryptonite. The perfectionism installation school grades you on correctness. Tests measure perfection. A 95% is good, but a 100% is better. Mistakes lower your score. The goal is to get everything right. This installs perfectionism, which is devastating for entrepreneurship. You wait until something is perfect before launching. You over-prepare, over-plan, overthink. You're terrified of putting out something imperfect. Meanwhile, successful entrepreneurs embrace good enough. Launch the minimum viable product. Get it to market. Learn from real feedback. Improve based on reality, not theory. They understand that perfect is the enemy of done. That a product in the market generating feedback is infinitely more valuable than a perfect product that never launches. But you can't think this way. You were trained that anything less than A level is unacceptable. So you never launch, never try, never start, because you can't guarantee perfection. The fixed mindset programming school sorts people early. You're either smart or you're not. Good at math or not. Creative or not. Athletic or not. These labels become identity. I'm not good at math. I'm not creative. I'm not a business person. This is fixed mindset, the belief that abilities are innate and unchangeable, and it's death for entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship requires growth mindset, the belief that you can learn anything, develop any skill, become whoever you need to be. You might not know how to code now, but you can learn. You might not understand marketing now, but you can figure it out. School's labeling system taught you fixed mindset, that you are what you are, and you can't fundamentally change. So you never try to develop entrepreneurial skills because I'm just not a business person. The single correct answer, problem. Every test question has one right answer. Every math problem has one solution. Every essay has one thesis that's correct. This trains you to believe that problems have single correct solutions, and your job is to find that one answer. Entrepreneurship is all about multiple solutions. There's not one right way to market a product, structure a business, serve customers, or solve problems. There are infinite approaches, each with trade-offs. Successful entrepreneurs evaluate multiple options, test different approaches, pivot when things don't work. They understand that there's no single correct answer, just different strategies with different outcomes. But you were trained to find the one right answer. So you look for the correct way to start a business, and when you can't find it, because it doesn't exist, you don't start. The Hierarchy Acceptance School has clear hierarchy. Teachers above students, administrators above teachers, school board above administrators, government above everyone. You're at the bottom. Your job is to accept this hierarchy, operate within it, and not challenge it. This creates adults comfortable being at the bottom of hierarchies. You accept that bosses will tell you what to do, that companies will control your time, that you'll be at the bottom of organizational charts. Entrepreneurs reject hierarchies. They create their own. They don't want anyone above them making decisions about their time, income, or future. But you were trained to accept hierarchical position, to be comfortable with others having authority over you. Rejecting that feels wrong, uncomfortable, even scary. The Extrinsic Motivation Dependency School runs on extrinsic motivation. You do homework to get grades, you study to pass tests, you behave to avoid punishment. Everything is about external rewards or consequences. This destroys intrinsic motivation, doing things because they're interesting, meaningful, or satisfying. Entrepreneurship requires intrinsic motivation. There are no grades, no one is making you work, no external structure forcing action. You have to be self-motivated, but you've been trained to need external motivation. Without grades, deadlines, and authority figures pushing you, you struggle to take action. You need someone to tell you what to do and when to do it. This dependency makes entrepreneurship incredibly difficult. You're waiting for motivation that won't come because there's no teacher assigning it. The failure aversion. In school, failure is documented and permanent. Fail a test, it's on your record. Fail a class, it's on your transcript. Fail too much, you don't graduate. This makes failure feel catastrophic, something to avoid at all costs, a permanent mark against you. Entrepreneurs fail constantly. They just fail fast, cheap, and forward. Each failure teaches something. Each mistake makes the next attempt better. The saying in Silicon Valley, fail fast, fail often, fail forward. This mindset is essential for entrepreneurship, but you can't adopt it easily. Failure feels too scary, too permanent, too shameful. You were trained for 16 years that failure is unacceptable. That programming doesn't just vanish. Chapter 13. The Escape Plan. How to Deprogram and Build Wealth. Despite school. Okay, we've spent a lot of time diagnosing the problem. Now let's talk solutions. You've been through the system. The damage is done. But it's not permanent. You can deprogram these limiting beliefs, develop wealth-building skills, and succeed despite your education. Here's how. Recognize the programming. First step is awareness. You can't fix what you don't know is broken. Go through everything we've discussed and identify which programming affects you. Do you seek permission before taking action? Do you avoid risk? Do you believe there's one right path? Do you need external validation? Are you afraid of failure? Write them down. Be honest. These aren't character flaws. They're learned behaviors from a flawed system. Recognizing them removes their power. Deliberately practice entrepreneurial thinking. You practiced employee thinking for thousands of hours. Now you need to practice entrepreneurial thinking just as deliberately. Start small. Make decisions without asking permission. Take small risks where the downside is limited. Try things that might fail. Question rules and conventions. Think about problems from multiple angles instead of seeking the right answer. Treat this like learning a new language. At first it feels uncomfortable and awkward. With practice, it becomes natural. Get real-world financial education school failed to teach you about money, so teach yourself, aggressively. Read books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Millionaire Next Door, The Psychology of Money, The Richest Man in Babylon. These aren't perfect, but they'll start rewiring your money mindset. Take courses, personal finance, investing basics, business fundamentals, not academic courses, practical courses from people actually doing it. Learn by doing. Start investing even with small amounts. Track your spending. Create a budget. Practice negotiating. Learn taxes. Get your hands dirty with real money. The knowledge exists. School didn't provide it, but you can get it yourself. You just have to prioritize it. Build skills that generate income. Identify high-value skills and learn them systematically. Sales. Everything is sales. You're selling your labor to employers, your products to customers, your ideas to investors. Learn to sell. Marketing. Understanding how to reach people and persuade them is worth millions over a lifetime. Copywriting. The ability to write persuasively is universally valuable. Basic finance. Understand financial statements, cash flow, ROI, basic accounting. Negotiation. Everything is negotiable. This skill pays for itself thousands of times over. You can learn all of these online for free or cheap. No permission needed, no 4-year degree required. Just commitment to learning. Start small businesses as learning experiences. Don't wait until you have the perfect idea or feel fully ready. Start small businesses to learn. Freelance your skills on Upwork. Sell things on eBay or Etsy. Start a service business. Build and sell digital products. Create content on YouTube. Most will fail or make little money. That's fine. You're not trying to build a billion-dollar company. You're learning how business works, how to find customers, how to deliver value, how to handle money, how to solve problems. Each attempt teaches you things school never could, and the cumulative learning from multiple attempts prepares you for bigger opportunities. Seek mentors outside the system. Find people who've built wealth and learn from them, not professors teaching theory, people actually doing it. Offer value in exchange for knowledge, work for them, help them, make yourself useful, learn by proximity and observation. This was the apprenticeship model that worked for centuries. It still works. You just have to seek it out because the system doesn't provide it. Decouple self-worth from external validation. This might be the hardest but most important step. Stop needing external approval. Your value isn't determined by grades, titles, or what others think. It's determined by the value you create and what you decide you're worth. Practice this. Make decisions without seeking approval. Value your own judgment. Trust yourself even when others disagree. Build internal validation. This is psychological work, and it's hard because school spent 16 years building the opposite habit. But it's essential for entrepreneurship and wealth building. Embrace strategic failure. Deliberately take actions that might fail. Start with low-stakes situations where failure is safe. Launch a product that might not sell. Try a marketing strategy that might not work. Make an offer that might get rejected. Apply for opportunities you might not get. Each time, failure becomes less scary. You learn that failure isn't catastrophic, it's data, it's feedback. It's a normal part of the process. This rewires your relationship with failure from something to avoid to something to embrace strategically. Build multiple income streams. Don't rely on one job. Start building alternative income sources immediately. Side business, freelancing, investments, passive income, anything that generates money outside your primary employment. This provides security. If one stream disappears, you have others, and growth. Income streams compound over time. Plus, it develops entrepreneurial skills in a low-risk way. Reject the scarcity mindset school taught you. Resources are scarce and success is zero-sum. Deliberately practice abundance thinking. Someone else's success doesn't diminish your opportunities. Wealth can be created, not just redistributed. Collaboration creates more opportunities than competition. This feels weird at first because it contradicts years of training, but it's essential for wealth building. Scarcity thinking keeps you small. Abundance thinking opens possibilities. Invest in assets, not liabilities. School taught you to invest in credentials. Redirect that toward investing in assets, real estate, stocks, businesses, things that generate returns, not more degrees, certificates, or credentials that just cost money. If you're going to invest $20,000, put it into income-generating assets, not another credential that might not pay off. This is hard because school taught you credentials equal value, but assets actually do generate value. Big difference. Network intentionally. Build relationships with people who can teach you, partner with you, or open opportunities. Join entrepreneurial communities. Attend business events. Connect with people online. Provide value to your network. Your network determines your opportunities more than your credentials do. School gave you a network of other broke people. You need to deliberately build a different network. 10:22 a.m., Chapter 13. Continued. The escape plan. Develop financial discipline. Early school never taught you to manage money, so you need to teach yourself financial discipline immediately. Track every dollar. Know where your money goes. Create budgets and stick to them. Pay yourself first by investing before spending. Avoid consumer debt like the plague. These habits compound over decades. Start them now, even with small amounts. Someone disciplined with $30,000 will build more wealth than someone undisciplined with $100,000. The discipline matters more than the amount. School didn't teach this, so you have to force yourself to learn it. Question. Every should. School filled your head with shoulds. You should go to college. You should get a stable job. You should buy a house. You should follow the path. Question all of them. Ask, who benefits from me doing this? What are the actual costs and benefits? What are the alternatives? Many shoulds benefit others more than they benefit you. Banks want you to have mortgages and loans. Employers want you to value stability over mobility. Colleges want you to believe credentials are essential. Think independently. Decide what actually serves your goals, not what the system tells you to do. Use debt, strategically, not automatically. School taught you to accept debt as normal. Undo this programming. Debt for assets that appreciate or generate income, sometimes justified. Debt for consumption or depreciating purchases, almost never justified. Student loans for a degree with unclear ROI, bad debt. Mortgage for a rental property that generates positive cash flow, potentially good debt. Business loan for equipment that increases revenue, potentially good debt. Car loan for a depreciating vehicle, bad debt. Learn the difference. Most people use debt backwards because school never taught them to think about it strategically. Optimize for learning, not comfort school, taught you to optimize for grades and approval. Reorient toward optimizing for learning and growth. Take jobs that teach valuable skills, even if they pay less initially. Work with people who know more than you. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations where you're forced to grow. The skills and experience you gain compound far more than the extra salary from a comfortable job where you learn nothing. This is counterintuitive because school taught you to optimize for the grade, the immediate reward, but wealth comes from optimizing for growth. Create before you consume. School trained you to consume information, not create value. Reverse this. Spend more time creating than consuming. Build things, make things, produce content, start projects, create value for others. Creation develops skills, builds assets, generates income, and provides learning. Consumption does none of these things. Make a rule. Create for an hour before you consume for an hour. Build the creation habit school never gave you. Understand tax. Strategy. This is huge and school completely ignored it. Learn how taxes actually work and how to minimize them legally. Understand the difference between W-2 income and business income. Learn about deductions, tax-advantaged accounts, and legal tax minimization strategies. Wealthy people pay lower effective tax rates than middle-class people because they understand tax strategy. School never taught you this, but the information is available. Learn it. Even basic tax knowledge can save you thousands annually. Over a lifetime, we're talking hundreds of thousands. Build systems, not job. School prepared you to trade time for money. Shift toward building systems that generate value without your constant presence. This could be a business with employees, investment portfolios, digital products, anything where value is created beyond your direct time input. This is the only way to scale beyond personal earning limits, but it requires thinking in systems, which school never taught you. Start small. Even small systems that generate $100 per month teach you the principles, then scale from there. Chapter 14, The Alternative Education. What you should have learned. Let's do something constructive. If we could redesign education to actually prepare people for wealth building, what would it look like? This isn't just theoretical. These are things you can learn now, outside the system, to make up for what school failed to teach. Financial literacy curriculum, age 10 to 14, basic budgeting and expense tracking. The difference between assets and liabilities, how compound interest works with real examples, basic investing concepts, why debt can be good or bad, how to evaluate value, cost versus benefit, age 15 to 18, how taxes work and basic tax strategy, credit cards, credit scores, and how to use them correctly. Student loan math and college RO. I analysis, different income types and their tax implications, basic business formation and operation, investment accounts and how to start investing. By 18, you'd understand money better than most adults. School doesn't teach any of this. You have to seek it out yourself. Entrepreneurship training. Starting young. Lemonade stands and small businesses as learning tools, profit, loss, and basic business accounting. Marketing to customers and understanding their needs, dealing with competition and differentiation, failure as feedback and learning, iteration and improvement. As teenagers, more complex business ventures, understanding different business models, sales and negotiation skills, digital business and online marketing, partnerships and collaboration, legal basics, and business structure. By graduation, you'd have started and probably failed at multiple small businesses. You'd understand how business works from experience, not textbooks. Practical life skills school should teach: how to file taxes, how to negotiate, salary, prices, anything, how to communicate effectively in professional settings, how to manage time and projects, how to learn efficiently, meta-learning, how to maintain physical and mental health, how to build and maintain relationships, how to make decisions under uncertainty, how to think critically and avoid cognitive biases. These skills have enormous economic impact, but school teaches none of them systematically. Real-world math. Instead of abstract math most people never use, personal finance calculations, loan payments, investment returns, retirement planning, business math, break-even analysis, profit margins, ROI, statistical thinking for decision-making, probability for understanding risk, basic data analysis for making sense of information math that's actually useful in building wealth, not calculus you'll forget 2 years after the test. Communication and persuasion school barely teaches these despite them being fundamental to success, public speaking and presentations. Written communication and copywriting, negotiation and conflict resolution, sales and persuasion, storytelling and narrative media literacy, and critical consumption. These skills determine your ability to sell, lead, negotiate, and influence. They're more valuable than most academic subjects. Self-directed learning school should teach you how to learn, not what to learn. How to identify what you need to learn. How to find reliable information sources. How to learn efficiently and retain information. How to practice and develop skills. How to evaluate your own progress. How to stay motivated without external pressure. These meta skills enable lifelong learning and adaptation. School doesn't teach them because it wants to be the provider of knowledge, not a teacher of independent learning. Psychological skills, critical for success but completely ignored. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset, dealing with failure and setbacks, managing stress and anxiety. Building confidence and self-efficacy. Delayed gratification and long-term thinking, understanding cognitive biases, emotional regulation. These psychological skills determine your ability to persist through challenges, take calculated risks, and maintain well-being while building wealth. Career strategy school should teach how to evaluate career paths based on personal values and goals, how to build a professional network, how to find mentors and learn from them, how to market yourself and build a personal brand, how different career paths compare economically, when to specialize versus generalize, how to transition between careers. Instead, school just says, go to college, get a job, without any nuanced understanding of career strategy. Investment education, starting with basics and building to advanced, different asset classes and their characteristics, risk and return relationships, diversification and portfolio construction, different investment vehicles, stocks, bonds, real estate businesses, active versus passive investing, tax-advantaged investing, when to invest, when to pay down debt, when to keep cash. By graduation, you'd be capable of managing your own investments intelligently. Instead, most people graduate completely ignorant of how investing works, legal and structural knowledge, practical understanding of business structures, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, sole proprietorship, contract basics and how to read them, intellectual property, patents, trademarks, copyrights, employment law basics, tenant and landlord rights, when you need a lawyer, and how to work with one. This knowledge prevents costly mistakes and enables you to structure your affairs intelligently. The implementation problem. This alternative curriculum would prepare people far better for wealth building than current education. So why doesn't it exist in schools? Because schools aren't designed to create wealthy individuals. They're designed to create employable workers. Teaching true financial independence and entrepreneurship threatens the employment system schools are meant to feed. Plus, most teachers have never built wealth themselves. They've been employees their entire careers. They can't teach what they don't know. This isn't meant as criticism of teachers. They're working within a flawed system. But it explains why you have to seek this education outside the system. How to get this education. Now, you didn't get this education in school. Get it now. Books. Voraciously read books on finance, investing, business, psychology, and skill development. The knowledge exists. School didn't provide it, but you can access it. Online courses, platforms like Coursera, Udemy, Skillshare, offer practical courses often taught by practitioners, not academics. Learn directly from people doing what you want to do. Podcasts and YouTube, free education from successful people sharing their knowledge. Curate a feed of content that Teaches wealth building rather than entertainment. Mentors. Find people ahead of you on the path and learn from them directly. This beats any classroom education. Experience. Start doing. Launch businesses. Make investments. Take risks. Experience teaches what books cannot. Communities. Join groups of people pursuing similar goals. Mastermind groups. Entrepreneurship communities. Investment clubs. Peer learning accelerates growth. The education you need exists outside the system. You just have to be intentional about getting it. Conclusion. The hard truth and the path forward. So here we are, 20,000 words into explaining how school makes you poorer. If you're angry, good. You should be. You've been sold a lie. You've been put into debt for credentials that don't deliver what they promised. You've been trained for a world that no longer exists, while being systematically prevented from learning what actually builds wealth. But anger without action is bitterness. So let's be clear about what you do now. The hard truths you need to accept first. Accept that the system won't save you. School failed you. It will fail the next generation too, unless something fundamentally changes. Waiting for the system to fix itself is futile. Second, accept that much of what you learned needs to be unlearned. The employee mindset, the risk aversion, the need for permission, the fear of failure, all of it needs to be deprogrammed. This takes conscious effort. Third, accept that you're starting behind where you should be. If school had taught you properly, you'd be years ahead financially. You're not. That's unfair. It's also reality. Accept it and move forward. Fourth, accept that building wealth requires doing things school specifically trained you not to do. Taking risks, thinking independently, questioning authority, embracing failure, creating value. This will feel uncomfortable because you're going against years of programming. Fifth, accept that this is hard. If it were easy, everyone would be wealthy. The difficulty is partly what creates the opportunity. Those who can overcome the programming and develop wealth-building skills will succeed. Most won't, which is why most people stay poor. What success actually looks like. Success isn't about getting rich quick. It's not about finding one weird trick or secret strategy. It's about developing high-value skills that generate income, building multiple income streams that compound over time, living below your means while investing the difference, taking calculated risks that school taught you to avoid, learning continuously despite having already graduated, thinking independently despite years of conformity training, building assets rather than accumulating credentials. This takes years, maybe decades, but it works. The math works. The principles work. The strategies work. They work for people less intelligent than you. They work for people with fewer advantages than you. They'll work for you if you actually implement them. The choice in front of you. You have a choice right now. You can accept what school taught you and live accordingly. Get the job, make the salary, pay the bills, save a little, retire at 65 if you're lucky. There's nothing wrong with this path. Millions of people live it. Most of them are fine. Or you can reject the programming and build differently. Learn what school didn't teach. Develop skills school didn't provide. Take risks school discouraged. Build wealth despite your education, not because of it. This second path is harder. No guarantees. More uncertainty. More failure. More discomfort. But it's also the path where wealth actually gets built. Where you own your time. Where you have options. Where you're not trapped by decisions you made at 18 because nobody explained the implications. The first step, stop waiting for permission. Whatever business idea you have, whatever investment you've been researching, whatever skill you want to develop, start today. Not when you're ready, not when conditions are perfect. Today, pick one wealth-building skill and commit to developing it. Sales, marketing, investing, coding, whatever. Give it 6 to 12 months of focused effort. Actually develop competence. Start a side income stream this month. Freelancing, consulting, selling products, creating content, anything that generates money outside your job. It doesn't need to replace your income immediately. It needs to exist. Audit your beliefs about money. Write down what you believe about wealth, success, and work. Then question where those beliefs came from. Most are school programming. Decide which beliefs serve you and which limit you. Find people who've built wealth and learn from them. Read their books, take their courses, join their communities, model what works. Most wealthy people are surprisingly accessible if you provide value and respect their time. Fix your financial fundamentals. Create a budget, Track spending, start investing, even small amounts. Pay off high-interest debt, build an emergency fund. The boring basics matter more than any get-rich-quick scheme. The long game building wealth is a long game. The strategies we've discussed, developing skills, building income streams, investing consistently, taking calculated risks, don't produce immediate results. They produce compounding results over years. This is why most people fail. They want fast results. They try for a few months, don't see dramatic changes, and quit. They go back to the employee path because it provides immediate, predictable returns, even if those returns are limited. Winners play the long game. They accept short-term discomfort for long-term payoff. They invest years in building assets that eventually generate freedom. They understand that compound growth is slow at first, then exponential. You've already spent 12 to 16 years in school learning things that don't build wealth. Can you invest the next 5 to 10 years learning and implementing things that do? That's the question. The mindset shift. More than anything, wealth building requires a mindset shift. From employee to owner, from consumer to creator, from permission seeker to action taker, from risk avoider to strategic risk taker, from thinking small to thinking big. School installed the wrong mindset. You need to consciously replace it. This doesn't happen overnight. It happens through repeated action, through small wins and failures, through gradually proving to yourself that you can think and act differently. Every time you take action without permission, you weaken the permission programming. Every time you take a calculated risk, you reduce fear of risk. Every time you fail and continue, you prove failure isn't catastrophic. Every time you create value, you reinforce that you're capable. Mindset follows action more than action follows mindset. You don't wait until you feel like an entrepreneur to start acting like one. You start acting like one, and the identity follows. The responsibility. Here's the thing nobody wants to hear. Even though school failed you, your financial future is your responsibility. Not fair, but true. You can spend your life blaming the system, and you'd be justified. Or you can take responsibility for learning what school didn't teach and building wealth despite the programming. Only one of these options leads to wealth. The system won't apologize. It won't refund your tuition. It won't compensate you for the years wasted or the debt accumulated. It will just keep failing the next generation while you decide what to do with your life. You can be bitter about this, or you can get busy fixing it for yourself. Your choice. The hope. Despite everything we've covered, the programming, the debt, the wasted time, the systematic failures, there's genuine hope. You're living in the best time in human history to build wealth. Outside traditional systems, you can learn anything online. You can start businesses with minimal capital. You can reach global audiences from your bedroom. You can invest with a few clicks. You can freelance for clients worldwide. The barriers to wealth building are lower than they've ever been. Yes, school put up artificial barriers through debt and programming, but the actual barriers, access to information, capital requirements, geographic limitations, are lower than ever. This means you can overcome school's failures more easily than any previous generation could. The tools exist, the information exists, the opportunities exist, you just have to use them. The final word. School makes you poorer not because education is bad, but because the system is designed for a world that no longer exists. It prepares you for factory jobs that don't exist, teaches you compliance over creativity, installs employee mindsets over ownership thinking, and burdens you with debt for credentials that often don't pay off. But you're not trapped. You're programmed, which is different. Programming can be overwritten. The beliefs school installed can be replaced. The skills school didn't teach can be learned. The wealth school didn't help you build can still be built. It just requires recognizing what happened, rejecting the programming, and deliberately building the mindset, skills, and assets that actually create wealth. This is harder than following the default path. It's also the only path that leads to real financial freedom. The choice is yours. Accept what school taught you and live accordingly, or reject the programming and build something different. Either way, the responsibility for your financial future rests with you now, not with the system that failed you. Choose wisely. Your future self, wealthy or otherwise, will live with this decision. Now stop reading and start building. You've learned what school failed to teach you. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? Final thoughts. The revolution starts with you. Before we end this, let's address the elephant in the room. If school is so bad, why does everyone still go? Because the system is self-perpetuating. Parents who went to school tell their kids to go to school. Teachers who succeeded in school teach in schools. Employers who have degrees require degrees. Society rewards credentials with social status. The whole structure reinforces itself. Breaking out of this cycle requires courage. It requires telling your parents you might not follow their advice. Telling your friends you're taking a different path. Telling society you don't care about its approval. Most people can't do this. The social pressure is too intense. But here's what's changing. The cracks in the system are becoming impossible to ignore. Student loan debt has hit $1.7 trillion in the US alone. Graduates are underemployed or working jobs that don't require degrees. The ROI on college is plummeting for most majors. More people are questioning whether the traditional path actually works. This creates opportunity. As the old system crumbles, alternatives gain legitimacy. Trade schools are seeing resurgence. Coding boot camps are producing employable developers in months instead of years. Online learning is democratizing education. Alternative credentials are gaining acceptance. Entrepreneurship is more accessible than ever. You're living through a transition period. The old system, everyone goes to college, gets a job, works for 40 years, is dying. The new system, multiple career paths, continuous learning, portfolio careers, entrepreneurship, is emerging. This transition creates chaos, but also opportunity. The generational responsibility. If you have kids or plan to, you have a responsibility to not perpetuate the cycle. Don't blindly push them toward college. Don't shame them for considering alternatives. Don't saddle them with debt because that's what we did. Teach them financial literacy from childhood. Let them start small businesses as teenagers. Show them that multiple paths exist. Help them evaluate college ROI before committing. Support entrepreneurial thinking even if it scares you. The system will change when enough people refuse to participate in its current form. That starts with you deciding not to impose outdated expectations on the next generation. The reality check. Let's be brutally honest about one more thing. Not everyone will build wealth, even with the right education and mindset. Some will try and fail. Some will try and achieve moderate success. Some will build genuine wealth. That's how it works. But here's what's guaranteed. Following the school-prescribed path of debt, employment, and hoping for the best will almost certainly not create wealth. Maybe it'll create stability. Maybe comfortable middle-class existence, but not wealth. At least by rejecting the programming and trying to build differently, you have a chance. The odds might not be in your favor, they never are for wealth building, but they're better than the guaranteed mediocrity of the default path. The action bias. Everything we've discussed is useless without action. You can understand every concept, agree with every point, and still end up exactly where you started if you don't act. The system counts on this. It counts on you feeling inspired for a few days, then falling back into familiar patterns. It counts on inertia. It counts on comfort winning over growth. It counts on you consuming information instead of applying it. Prove the system wrong. Take one action today, one thing that moves you toward wealth building and away from the programming. Then tomorrow, take another, then another. Small actions compound into different life trajectories. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the new year. Don't wait until you feel ready. Those are delay tactics your programming uses to keep you stuck. Start now, messy and imperfect, and improve as you go. The community component. You can't do this alone. You need people around you who support wealth-building thinking instead of reinforcing poverty programming. Find communities of people building businesses, investing, developing skills, thinking differently. Online or in person doesn't matter. What matters is surrounding yourself with people who normalize entrepreneurship and wealth building instead of normalizing employment and debt. Your current social circle might not support this journey. They might call you crazy for rejecting the traditional path. They might discourage you from taking risks. They might make you feel guilty for wanting more. This is their programming speaking. You might need to distance yourself from people who keep you stuck, even if they mean well. This sounds harsh, but your social environment shapes your beliefs and behaviors more than almost anything else. Choose it carefully. the permission. The E. You've been waiting for some of you are waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to reject what school taught you, to skip college, to start a business, to think differently, to want wealth, to take risks. Here it is. It's okay. You have permission. Not that you need it, but if hearing it helps, there it is. Society's approval isn't required for your success. Your parents' understanding isn't required. Your teacher's validation isn't required. Your friend's support isn't required. What's required is your decision to build differently, your commitment to learning what school didn't teach, and your willingness to act despite uncertainty. That's it. The rest is optional. The ultimate irony. The ultimate irony is that the people who do best financially often learn the most outside of school. They read books school didn't assign, they took risks school discouraged, they thought independently despite school's emphasis on conformity, they built businesses while classmates collected credentials. School's greatest gift might be showing you what not to do. It's a perfect example of what happens when systems optimize for the wrong things. Compliance over creativity, credentials over competence, conformity over critical thinking. Learning what not to do is valuable. Now you know the employee path leads to limited wealth. You know debt for credentials is usually a trap. You know the system isn't designed to make you wealthy. Armed with this knowledge, you can choose differently. The final challenge. Here's your challenge. 6 months from now, will your financial situation look different than today? Will you have started that side business, developed that valuable skill, made those investments, unlearned some limiting beliefs, taken actions you've been avoiding, or will you be in the same place, having consumed this information and done nothing with it? That's the real test. Information without implementation is just entertainment. 6 months. That's enough time to start a business, learn a high-value skill, begin investing, or make significant progress on any wealth-building goal. It's not enough time to get rich, but it's enough to prove to yourself you can think and act differently. Set a reminder, check back in 6 months. See if you actually implemented anything or if you just felt inspired and returned to default programming. That'll tell you everything you need to know about your financial future. The truth about freedom. Ultimately, this isn't really about money, it's about freedom. Money is just the tool that buys freedom. Freedom from jobs you hate, freedom from financial stress, freedom to spend time as you choose, freedom to take risks, freedom to help others, freedom to live life on your terms. School prepares you for the opposite. Dependence on employers, financial anxiety, time controlled by others, risk aversion, inability to help even yourself, living life on society's terms. Wealth building is about reclaiming freedom that the system tries to take from you. It's about refusing to trade your entire adult life for someone else's profit. It's about building something that serves you instead of serving a system that doesn't care about you. This is why it matters. This is why it's worth the effort to deprogram, relearn, and rebuild. Because the alternative, a life of limited freedom, financial stress, and wondering what if, is far worse than the discomfort of changing course. The last thing you need to hear, you're capable of building wealth. Not because you're special, because the principles work for anyone who applies them consistently. School convinced you that you need special credentials, special connections, special circumstances. You don't. You need knowledge you can acquire, skills you can develop, discipline you can build, mindsets you can adopt. None of this is out of reach. It's just outside what school taught you. The question isn't whether you can do this. The question is whether you will. Whether you'll overcome the programming, do the work, and build something different. Whether you'll still be having the same financial conversations 5 years from now, or whether you'll have actually changed your trajectory. That choice is yours and yours alone. School already made its choice about your future. Now you get to make yours. Make it count.